When my acceptance letter from California State University Bayview finally landed in my inbox, I thought nothing could shake me, not after months of grinding through AP classes, SAT prep, and endless late-night coding sessions. My score was near perfect, my major locked in as computer science, and for the first time in a long while I felt like I had control of my future. But the universe, apparently, wasn't done messing with me. My phone buzzed just as I was about to text the group chat the good news. It was Ashley Johnson, the girl I'd been dating for the past year. Well, dating might be generous. Our entire relationship had been born out of a video game. We met in a ranked match, hit it off, and from then on spent hours raiding, duo queuing, and trash-talking opponents until the sun came up. To me, it was real. To her, apparently, it was disposable. "Ethan, we need to talk," her message said. And before I could even type out a reply, my phone started ringing. Her voice was flat, almost rehearsed. "Congrats on getting into your dream school or whatever, but I think we should break up." I blinked at my screen, thinking maybe she was trolling me. "Break up?" Out of nowhere? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She sighed, like I was a burden she had to get rid of. "Come on, Ethan. Let's be real. You're just not it. You're a total nerd, probably ugly as hell in real life. I can't keep pretending this is going anywhere." She didn't even wait for me to answer before hanging up. My hand froze on the phone, the little call-ended icon glaring at me like a slap in the face. My chest felt tight, and for a second I thought maybe I'd misheard her. Ugly? Nerd? Wasn't that what made me crush those exams? Wasn't that why she liked duoing with me in the first place? I tried to brush it off, but the sting was already there, burrowing under my skin. I wasn't even given a chance to argue, to prove her wrong. It was like being deleted from someone's friends list without warning. Later that night, I logged on to the game, more out of habit than anything. My team queued up as usual, and guess who was there? Ashley. She hadn't wasted a second. She was already laughing in party chat, but I didn't pay much attention. Until her mic crackled, and I heard it. "Seriously, you guys, you won't believe what he looks like in real life. He's such a total geek. I bet he wears glasses taped in the middle and plays in his mom's basement. No wonder I dumped him." Her voice was dripping with mockery, and she didn't realize her mic was broadcasting to the whole team. My heart dropped into my stomach. Everyone went silent for a beat, the kind of silence that screams louder than words. My cursor hovered, frozen, half of me wanting to log out, the other half burning with humiliation. That's when a new voice cut through the static. Calm, crisp, female. "You should shut up." Everyone paused. It was her. The mysterious player who went by the name Seraphine, the one I'd seen top leaderboards but rarely heard speak. Her voice had this no-nonsense sharpness that made everyone instinctively pay attention. Before Ashley could even respond, Seraphine's character swooped across the map, outplaying Ashley with surgical precision. 1 minute Ashley was taunting, the next her character was respawning, killed in the most humiliating way possible. "Trash like you doesn't deserve to play," Seraphine said, her tone icy but steady. The whole team lit up with chat emojis and LOL spam. Ashley tried to play it off, sputtering excuses, but the damage was done. For the first time since that phone call, I felt a spark of something that wasn't misery. Gratitude, maybe. Or relief. I typed into team chat, "Thanks." She didn't reply, not right away, but she didn't have to. Actions spoke louder than words, and she just defended me in front of everyone, making Ashley eat her own trash talk. The rest of the match blurred by in a haze of adrenaline. I played harder than ever, feeding off Seraphine's energy, and we crushed the enemy team. When the victory screen flashed, I hovered over her name, hesitating. My heart thumped like I was about to do something reckless. Then I clicked, "Send friend request." To my surprise, the notification popped instantly accepted. Just like that, the wall between us broke. My inbox pinged with a private message. "Don't let losers like her get to you," she wrote. Short. Direct. But it hit me harder than any motivational speech could. I stared at the screen, grinning like an idiot. For the first time all day, maybe all week, I didn't feel pathetic. I felt seen. That night, I couldn't sleep. My brain kept replaying the sound of her voice, the way she dismantled Ashley in seconds, the simple but powerful words she sent afterward. I wanted to know more about her, who she was behind the gamer tag, why she even bothered defending me. All I knew was that her presence lit something inside me. I thought I'd lost the will to fight, to prove myself, not just in a game but in real life. And maybe, just maybe, that was only the beginning. After that night, things changed. Not overnight, but in a way I could feel every time I logged in. It was like my entire gaming world had tilted on its axis, because now Seraphine was on my friends list. I could see her little green dot light up, and every time it did, my pulse picked up like I was waiting for something I didn't even have the right to expect. For a couple of days, I kept second-guessing myself, wondering if I should even message her. What if she'd only accepted my request out of pity? What if she didn't even remember who I was? But then, 3 nights later, my screen flashed, "Invite from Seraphine." My hands literally trembled on the mouse. I clicked accept so fast it probably set a new world record. Her voice came through my headset right away, calm and composed like the last time. "Ready?" she asked, no small talk, no hesitation. I swallowed hard, forcing myself not to sound like a complete fanboy. "Yeah, let's do it." That night we queued game after game, and it was like we'd been playing together for years. She was sharp, calculating, but she didn't micromanage me like other high-level players did. Instead, she set me up to succeed, pointing out enemy movements, predicting ambushes, letting me shine in moments I didn't even know I was capable of. By the time we logged off, I was buzzing with adrenaline, staring at the victory streak on my screen like it was proof my life wasn't as pathetic as Ashley had made it sound. I typed, "Thanks for carrying me." She replied instantly, "Not carrying. You just need to believe in your own plays." Those words stuck with me, echoing in the back of my head the whole night. For the first time, I didn't feel like a sidekick in someone else's story. I felt like maybe I could be the main character of my own. And that feeling was addictive. It became a routine. Every night, after homework and dinner, I'd log on, and almost like clockwork she'd send me an invite. We didn't talk about personal stuff, not yet. It was all strategy, timing, the occasional dry comment when an opponent messed up. But even in those few words, I could sense something different about her. She wasn't like the people I usually met online, and definitely not like Ashley, who spent more time trash-talking than actually playing. Speaking of Ashley, it didn't take long for her to notice that my game had leveled up. One night, she showed up in the same queue with her new squad, and I swear the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. She tried to act smug, laughing into the mic like she'd moved on and I was just some embarrassing ex, but when the match started, Seraphine and I dismantled her team like it was target practice. Ashley's voice cracked when she realized it was me on the other side, and by the second round she was yelling orders at her teammates like a commander in panic mode. Later, I found out she'd actually paid some booster to play with her, hoping to show me up. Joke was on her. With Seraphine leading the charge, we stomped them so hard the booster rage quit halfway through. The chat blew up with laughing emojis, and Ashley's voice went dead silent. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. After the match, I couldn't help messaging Seraphine, "Remind me never to get on your bad side." For the first time, she actually sent back a laughing emoji. Just one, but it felt like winning the lottery. That tiny crack in her icy persona gave me a glimpse of something more, something human behind the flawless gameplay. It made me want to push a little further, test the waters. So, I typed, "What's the secret? How do you stay this good?" There was a pause before she answered. "It's not about mechanics. It's about awareness. You have to read the game like a map. Most people only react. You have to anticipate." I stared at her message, letting it sink in. She wasn't just good because she had fast reflexes, she was good because she saw the bigger picture. That was a kind of brilliance I couldn't fake, and it made me respect her even more. Jokingly, I typed back, "Guess I'll just have to keep learning. I owe you big time. At this rate, I should probably buy you breakfast every day for a month." For a second, I regretted hitting send. It sounded too forward, too desperate. But then the reply popped up, "I'll remember that." Just 4 words, but it sent a rush through me I couldn't shake. From that night on, playing with her wasn't just about winning anymore. It was about proving myself worthy of her trust, of her time, of the strange partnership that had somehow fallen into my lap. Ashley faded further and further into the background, her voice just static compared to the clarity of Seraphine's. I didn't know who Seraphine really was, where she lived, what she looked like, or why she even bothered with me. But I knew one thing for sure, whatever this was, it was only the beginning. College life hit me like a truck. One second I was still in high school coasting on the adrenaline of acceptance letters and late-night gaming sessions, the next I was dragging boxes into my dorm room at California State University Bayview, meeting roommates, figuring out my class schedule, and trying not to look like a total freshman idiot wandering around campus. Between orientation events, mandatory department meetings, and late-night study sessions just to keep up with the pace, I barely had time to breathe, let alone game. At first, I thought it was fine, I could take a short break, focus on settling in, and then pick things up again once I had a routine. But apparently, in the world of Ashley Johnson, any absence from a game meant fuel for gossip. By the end of my first week, I started getting DMs from old teammates saying Ashley had been running her mouth. According to her, I'd quit gaming because I couldn't handle rejection and was too heartbroken to show my face online. She spun this whole narrative like she was the star of some high school soap opera and I was the pathetic ex who couldn't move on. The craziest part? Some people actually believed her. I saw her posts floating around on forums, painting me as some lovesick loser who gave up because I got dumped. I couldn't help laughing when I read them, because the reality was I was drowning in assignments and campus events, not tears. Still, it stung knowing she was out there trying to define my story for me. What made it even more ridiculous was when she started parading her new boyfriend around, both online and offline. From what I gathered, he was some guy she'd met through a gaming lobby, a self-proclaimed pro who, in reality, played like he'd just installed the game yesterday. The guy couldn't aim, couldn't coordinate, and spent half his time bragging about non-existent skills. Watching clips of him flailing around while Ashley tried to hype him up as her upgrade was pure comedy. If anything, it just made her look desperate. Meanwhile, I finally got a chance to log in one night after finishing a brutal programming assignment, and there it was, an invite from Seraphine. My exhaustion evaporated instantly. Playing with her felt like plugging myself back into a power source. Within minutes we were in sync again, tearing through enemies like it was nothing. She hadn't missed a beat, and somehow, neither had I. The contrast between her flawless gameplay and Ashley's circus act with her boyfriend was almost painful to watch. Mid-match, I typed out, "You ever get tired of carrying me?" expecting maybe silence or a sarcastic reply. Instead, she said calmly through comms, "You're better than you think. You just doubt yourself too much." I sat there for a second, forgetting I was supposed to be dodging fire. It wasn't just the words, it was the way she said them, matter of fact, like she could see through me better than anyone else. Match after match, she kept proving that it wasn't just her skills that set her apart, it was her mindset. She anticipated moves, made split-second decisions with absolute confidence, and never wasted time on pointless drama. Every time Ashley's squad popped up on the other side, Seraphine dismantled them without a second thought. No trash talk, no gloating, just pure dominance. Watching her take Ashley apart in silence was more satisfying than any insult I could have thrown. And the more time I spent duoing with her, the more I realized how much I admired that about her. She didn't waste energy where it didn't matter. She didn't let people like Ashley dictate her emotions. She just played her game, and won. That's when it hit me, maybe that's what I needed to learn, not just in gaming but in life. Stop obsessing over what people say about me, stop trying to prove Ashley wrong, and just focus on playing my own game. The more I leaned into that mindset, the better I played, and the more fun I had. Nights with Seraphine became the highlight of my week. Even on days when classes left me exhausted, just hearing her say, "Ready," when the match started was enough to snap me back to life. Sometimes we'd win so effortlessly that I'd crack jokes about her smuffing, and she'd respond with the tiniest laugh, the kind you'd miss if you weren't paying attention. But to me, that small sound meant everything. Ashley could post all the lies she wanted, parade her clueless boyfriend like he was some trophy, but it didn't matter anymore. Because when I was in the game with Seraphine, none of that noise reached me. It was just us, the battlefield, and the unspoken rhythm we'd built together. And maybe, just maybe, that rhythm was leading somewhere I hadn't dared imagine yet. When I walked out of that hotel lobby into the sharp bite of the night air, it felt like my chest had been hollowed out, but instead of collapsing I kept moving, one step after another, as if momentum itself was the only thing holding me together, and in that weird haze between heartbreak and adrenaline I realized this wasn't the end, it was just the midpoint of something bigger. Because no matter how much I wanted to believe that losing Emily to Ryan was just fate, deep down I knew there were pieces of this puzzle that still didn't add up, like the way Nathan avoided my eyes when I asked him about what really happened that night, or the subtle hesitation in Olivia's voice when she swore she didn't know anything, and the more I thought about it the more it made me feel like the world was gaslighting me, like everyone had gotten together behind my back to write a script where I was supposed to play the fool who loses the girl. But I've never been good at following scripts, so I grabbed my phone and scrolled through my contacts, finger hovering over Nathan's name, because if there was one guy who always cracked under pressure, it was him, and sure enough when I cornered him later at the diner we used to haunt during college, he spilled enough to confirm what my gut had been screaming, that Ryan had been pulling strings long before Emily's so-called choice at that reunion night, setting me up piece by piece, isolating me until she thought he was the only one who could save her. Which made my stomach twist because it wasn't just betrayal, it was manipulation at a level I hadn't even imagined, and once that realization sank in the sadness I'd been drowning in shifted into something sharper, cleaner, almost electric, because now I had a target, and honestly anger is easier to live with than heartbreak, so I started planning. Not the kind of reckless revenge plan you scribble on a napkin while drunk, but something methodical, something that would cut as deep as what he did to me, and yeah, I could hear the invisible comment section in my head blowing up like it always did, half of them cheering me on like I was some underdog protagonist finally gearing up for his comeback arc, the other half warning me I was just feeding into Ryan's game, but I tuned them out because for the first time since this whole mess started I felt like I was moving forward instead of just reacting. And that's when Emily called me, her name lighting up my screen like a ghost I hadn't invited, her voice trembling as she asked if we could meet because things aren't what they look like, which almost made me laugh out loud because wasn't that exactly what cheaters always said, but still I agreed, partly out of morbid curiosity and partly because I wanted to see her eyes when I asked her straight up if she had known all along. And when we finally sat across from each other in that late-night coffee shop I saw something I didn't expect, not guilt exactly but fear, the kind of fear that comes from realizing you've been tricked into playing the wrong team, and even though every part of me wanted to stay stone cold, some stupid leftover piece of my heart still twisted when she reached for my hand, whispering that Ryan wasn't who she thought he was, that he'd been hiding things from her too, but before I could decide whether to believe her, he showed up, swaggering like he owned the place, eyes locked on me like we were already mid-fight, and I swear the entire coffee shop went dead silent as if everyone knew this was the climax of some Netflix drama they'd been binge-watching, and in that moment I knew part 5 of my life wasn't going to be about licking my wounds anymore, it was going to be about a full-on collision, me versus him, no more shadows, no more whispers, just the truth laid bare and whatever fallout came with it. The second Ryan walked into that coffee shop it felt like the air got sucked out of the room, like every single pair of eyes turned into an audience waiting for the drama to explode, and maybe that's exactly what he wanted because the guy thrived on attention, on turning real life into some sick spectacle where he was always the star, but I wasn't about to play his side character anymore. So when he smirked at me across the table like he already owned Emily and everything else in my world, I leaned back in my chair and gave him the kind of look that said I was done being played, and the way Emily froze between us like she was caught in the headlights only made the silence heavier, her hand half reaching for mine but pulling back the second Ryan dropped into the seat beside her like he was marking his territory, and the invisible comments section in my head went wild, half of them screaming at me to punch him right there, the other half warning that throwing hands in a coffee shop would just make me look pathetic, but I didn't move, I just let him talk. Because that's the thing about guys like Ryan, if you let them talk long enough, they hang themselves, and sure enough he started running his mouth about how Emily deserved a man who could give her everything, and how I was still clinging to the past like some loser who peaked in college, but I didn't bite, I just watched Emily's face as his words hit her, and the crack in her expression told me she was starting to see what I'd known all along, that Ryan wasn't a savior, he was a snake, and when she finally whispered, almost too quietly to hear, that maybe we should all calm down, I stood up instead, because I'd had enough of pretending we were three normal people having coffee when really this was the front line of a war I hadn't asked for, so I told her flat out, if you still want to believe him, that's on you. But I'm done begging for something that should have been real without me fighting for it, and the way her eyes watered up told me she wasn't as sure as she wanted to be, but Ryan just laughed, clapped me on the shoulder like I was some kid throwing a tantrum, and whispered something only I could hear, you'll never beat me, because even when you walk away, you're still playing my game, and damn if that didn't burn a hole straight through me, but instead of snapping I smiled, because for the first time I realized he was wrong, that he needed me to keep reacting, to keep spiraling, otherwise he had nothing, and walking out of there while he was still talking might have been the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the smartest, because now the game wasn't his anymore, it was mine, and the next few weeks became my training arc, my glow-up montage, whatever you want to call it, where I stopped drinking myself stupid and started putting in the hours at work, building connections, fixing the parts of my life he couldn't touch. And yeah, the invisible audience kept chiming in, some calling me a king for finally standing up, others calling me delusional for thinking I could compete with Ryan's money and influence, but I tuned them out and just kept grinding, because revenge doesn't work if you come at it half-baked, and little by little things started to shift, like Nathan coming clean about the stuff Ryan had blackmailed him with, or Olivia quietly slipping me info about the deals Ryan was making behind Emily's back, and piece by piece the puzzle turned into a weapon I could actually use, until one night I got a text from Emily asking me to meet her alone, saying she needed to tell me something important, and even though every alarm bell in my head told me it was probably another trap, I went anyway, because I had to know if she was finally ready to admit the truth, and when I saw her standing there in the park under the dim streetlights, clutching her phone like it was the only thing keeping her upright, I realized she wasn't the confident girl who once told me she believed in forever, she was someone broken down by lies and pressure, and when she looked up at me with tears in her eyes and said, I think I made a mistake, I felt the invisible audience lose their collective minds, half of them screaming, take her back, and half of them yelling, don't fall for it, and maybe both sides had a point, but before I could even answer she told me something that flipped the entire story on its head, that Ryan wasn't just playing me, he was playing her too, and that the thing he'd been hiding could take him down if I had the guts to use it, which meant part 6 wasn't just going to be about choosing between love and pride, it was about deciding whether I was ready to burn everything down to finally end this game once and for all. When Emily dropped that bomb on me in the park, my entire world tilted, because up until that moment I thought Ryan was just a smug prick stealing my girlfriend and waving his money around like a golden ticket, but hearing that he'd been playing her too, using her as some pawn in a scheme bigger than either of us, hit me harder than any of his smug little speeches ever could, and the way she said it, voice cracking like she'd been carrying this weight for months, made me realize that for once she wasn't performing, she wasn't choosing sides, she was desperate, and the invisible comments section that had been riding me all this time went absolutely feral, half of them cheering that the villainess finally woke up, while the other half warned me that forgiving her now would just drag me back into heartbreak. But honestly, I didn't care about the noise anymore because this wasn't about being her hero or her fallback. It was about the truth, so I told her to spill everything, and she did. She told me how Ryan had promised her a future, how he dangled connections and security in front of her, but behind closed doors he'd been forging deals that weren't just shady, they were illegal, laundering money through shell companies, roping Nathan in with fake investments, even using Olivia to cover his tracks. And the kicker was that he'd left just enough evidence tied to Emily's name so if things went south she'd take the fall while he walked away clean. And when I heard that, my first instinct was to punch something, but instead I grabbed her shoulders and told her flat out, "You're not going down for him, not on my watch," because for all the ways she'd hurt me I still couldn't stomach seeing her destroyed by his lies, and maybe that made me weak, or maybe it made me human, but either way it set the stage for what came next. Because taking Ryan down wasn't going to be about fists or shouting matches anymore. It was about strategy, and for once I wasn't alone. I had Nathan ready to flip, Olivia feeding me intel, and now Emily herself desperate enough to expose him, so we spent the next week building a case, pulling receipts, gathering screenshots, connecting dots that the cops or the press couldn't ignore, and every night when I thought about quitting, about how risky it was, I could hear Ryan's voice in my head telling me I'd never beat him, and that kept me moving, kept me grinding, until finally we had enough, and the night we dropped it all, every document, every recording, every dirty deal onto a journalist who'd been itching to sink her teeth into someone like Ryan. It felt like setting fire to a house I'd been trapped in for years, and watching the flames catch was almost intoxicating. But of course Ryan wasn't going to roll over. No, the second the story broke he came after me harder than ever, calling me a traitor, threatening lawsuits, even trying to corner Emily again. But by then the tide had shifted, the public wasn't buying his golden boy act anymore, and the invisible audience that had once mocked me now flooded the feed with chants of finally, king behavior, and I won't lie, it felt good, but victory never feels clean. Because in the middle of Ryan's downfall I had to face the mess between me and Emily, and standing across from her after everything, after the betrayal, the tears, the late-night confessions. I didn't know if I wanted to love her again or if I just wanted to remember what loving her used to feel like. And she looked at me with those eyes I used to think could anchor me forever and asked quietly, "So what now? Do we start over?" And for a second I wanted to say yes, to fall back into the comfort of what we'd had. But I also knew that the guy I was now wasn't the same desperate kid who begged for scraps of her affection, and the invisible crowd went wild in my head, half screaming, "Take her back you fool," and half shouting, "Move on king," and for the first time I realized the choice wasn't about them, or even about her, it was about me, about the man I wanted to be moving forward. So I told her the truth, that I didn't know where we stood, that maybe someday we could figure it out, but right now I needed to stand on my own 2 feet. And the way she nodded, tears slipping down but no arguments this time, told me she understood, maybe even respected it. And as I walked away into the night with Ryan's empire burning behind me and Emily's silhouette fading into the distance, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: freedom. Raw and terrifying and electric, like the story wasn't ending here at all, it was just beginning, and whatever came next wouldn't be about chasing someone else's validation, it would be about writing my own script, no commentary needed.